We have a few people that are absent, but there's a lot going on in hopes of getting our work done here this session. So with that, we do have first item of business is election of committee leadership. This year, I believe it is the Senate's turn to be the chairperson. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the case. And if that is the case, I would like to hear any nominations for chairperson from the Senate. Representative Erickson. Or Senator Erickson, sorry. That's different. You and I don't hang out a lot anymore. And so it used to be representative when we did hang out a lot.
It did. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I nominate Senator Molly Baumgardner.
All right. Do I have a second on that nomination? All right, very good. Any other nominations for chairperson? Oh, sorry. Oh, the Senator Erickson did the nomination and Representative Carlin was the second. Are there additional nominations for chairperson? Seeing no additional nominations, then do I see the appropriate move by acclamation, motion by acclamation. If there's all in favor of chairperson Molly Baumgardner, say aye. Opposed, same sign. There you go. So it is. All right, Senator Baumgardner. Well, with that in mind, Chairwoman Baumgardner, if you'd like to take over the rest of the meeting, I will turn the helm over.
Thank you very much, Representative, for that. We will now open up nominations for Vice Chairperson. It will be a House member, yes. Representative Carlin. Do I have a second? Second, Senator Corson. Do you have any other nominations? Representative Resman. Do I have a second on that? Second, Representative Smith. So how do we go about, oh, are there any other additional nominations? Let's get some more people. Seeing no other nominations, I will refer to our reviser. I cannot think of a time that we have done this where we've had more than one. Do I just, yes, Representative?
Chair, I respectfully withdraw my nomination with the permission of my.
Okay, I would need to call on a Representative Carlin, I believe it was. So we have removed Representative Heiberger from the ballot. So now we have a motion and a second for Representative Owens to be our vice chair. Being unopposed, all those in favor by acclamation, say aye. Opposed, nay. Congratulations, Mr. Vice Chair. We do have an abstention. Thank you. So now we will move to ranking minority member. Do I have a motion for that? Okay. Oh, has to be a senator. Senator. There we go. So Representative Carlin has now nominated Senator Corson. Do I have a second on that? Okay, so we have a second right over there from Representative Finney. Do I have any other nominations? Seeing none, we will now have a vote by acclamation. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Now's your chance. There we go. So congratulations, ranking minority member. We do need to discuss at this time possible interim study topics and the number of meeting days. So we have several new participants today with us. what we have done historically is we've kind of gone around the room and we've talked about topics with regard to corrections and or juvenile justice that need to be addressed. Sometimes those are complete circle and a Venn diagram, but sometimes they're very different. So we share a list of topics. Then the chair works with legislative research to come up, kind of coalesce what those topics will be, and a request is made for a number of days with our leadership. I think before we start in that, I do want to make one note. We had several items from last year's meeting that were approved unanimously by the joint committee. And I don't believe a single one of those got out of either chamber. We had some hearings, but I do not believe that any of the actual recommendations came out. So I think perhaps this year we should consider what things do we need to have as study topics, and are there areas of legislation that we feel that we should be addressing? And so be looking at, are there legislative issues that need to be addressed, as well as are there study topics that we need to address to determine if in the future we might need potential legislation. So yes, Representative Carlin, and then we'll go to Representative Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like that idea of how you're approaching that. I wonder if we could get some kind of feedback on our items that were not approved to see if there was a hang up in there that we can fix. Because I thought we had a really good program, and maybe there's something in them that we need to tweak. If we could get a report from staff on what didn't go through, and maybe find out in the testimony where the problems were.
Representative Owens.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. From a procedural standpoint, I did have the opportunity to speak with Meredith Fry from Legislative Research, and she has agreed to receive all of the recommendations, even if they're not discussed here. So just so that's out there for everybody.
And Meredith, would you please raise your hand so everyone kind of gets it? Meredith was a new legislative research assistant when she got right into our meeting last year. So that was a very steep learning curve, but did a wonderful.
Now I think it's old hat for her. So she's ready to go. If you don't mind, I do have a couple of recommendations.
Please go through that.
Very good. One of the things that I don't think that we have in this body ever really dive deep into, and that is, what do our court services and our community corrections officers actually do for us? Correction side. I think we've talked about them a lot, but I think that that might be a trip that we could take to actually visit some of those locations and meet with some of those folks to really understand what goes on the ground. Had a chance to speak with Randall Bowman from the Kansas Department of Corrections, who's here with us, and he would be happy to work with us to facilitate something along those lines.
Did you have another one?
I did. The other one is possibly, okay, I didn't know that we do have Senator Faust-Godot online, so
Okay.
I'm done. The other thing is, I believe we have 2 new facilities that will be coming online by the time that we would meet. Those include a geriatric facility as well as a substance use facility. So I might might be worth discussing a field trip to those facilities as well to see what work is being done there as KDOC has put the state's money to work. Thank you.
Senator Faust-Godot, I understand you are with us virtually.
Yes, I am. Thank you. And just a quick question. Do you have an idea, Representative Owens, when we would take those field trips?
Well, I suppose it would be during the time that we as a body decide to meet, which is usually in the fall. So sometime coordinated in those 2 or 3 days where we get together.
Thank you.
So we would be sending out, I really think it works best to send out just a survey monkey, if you will, to find out what dates work best for folks. To try and work around work schedules, campaign schedules, and things like that. Representative Ressman, did you have your hand up as far as ideas? He stole it. Okay. Okay, then it was a very good suggestion, right? There we go. Okay, Representative Smith.
Thank you, Senator Baumgartner. I think one of the things that is of utmost importance to the sheriffs across the state is mental health and policy concerning mental health, the state of where we're at, the problems that, especially out in western Kansas, I know there's a great deal of emphasis on trying to figure out what we're going to do with crisis intervention. But anyhow, a good informational about where we're at. Also, policies that have been brought up, funding issues along those lines. I think that would be something that this committee would be a great sounding board on.
You don't have to go too far west. If you just go a little east and south to Miami County, it's an issue there too. So I agree. Yes. Representative Ressman.
Thinking juvenile crisis intervention. Sorry, juvenile crisis intervention centers, where that stands.
Because we continue to have several $1 million sitting there. Yep. Very good. Just if you are new or somewhat new to the committee, do not shy away from if there's something you're not that familiar with, there's probably others that aren't either. And so any additional suggestions?
Madam Chair, you know, we've talked about expungement, and I don't know if we had a bill on that this year. Did we have? Well, anyway, I think we need to pursue how people get their records cleaned up when they've come, you know, through the process with expungements, and the fact that we allow counties to charge for those expungements.
Which is oftentimes a barrier.
It's very difficult for people who have been struggling.
Of course,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I remember that when we met over the fall, there was, real concern about workforce issues within our corrections and being able to hire the number of folks that we need to just really run those facilities in a safe, professional way. I think maybe we'd benefit from some sort of an update on that situation. And then with that, maybe we could make recommendations based off that update to continue to try to improve that, because I know that's significant concern. Thank you, Madam Chair.
very good. We have that down. So I'm going to go to Representative Finney, and then we'll go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My suggestion has to deal with the issue in Wichita with Cedric Lofton, the young man that was killed in the Jayak in Wichita, Kansas. And there was a committee that was formed by the county and the city, and I can't think of the name of it. But that committee has come up with a set of recommendations. And one of the recommendations that they have offered is that we review the stand your ground laws, because the district attorney in Wichita, Mr. Mark Bennett, had decided that his death, that they couldn't charge any of the Jayak officers because it fell under the stand your ground. So I was just thinking, since we are one of the state committees that would be looking at those, and I think we really need to look at this case because it has received national attention about how that case was handled. But I would suggest that we look at that too. And particularly that one recommendation that's probably going to be coming our way next year.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Hang on just a minute,
Oh, thank you.
because Representative Heiberger is next, and then I will call on you, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like us to take a comprehensive look at our offender registry statutes. I think we've got one of the most expansive offender registries in the country, and some efforts to try to reform that haven't, well, other than the drug registry bill we passed this year, haven't gone anywhere. I think the more information people get about that, the more their views change on what we're doing here. So if we could put that on our agenda, I'd appreciate it.
Now, Senator Faustido.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the same lines of the comment made by Representative Gail Finney, that task force in Wichita to look at some of the issues that are going on there with citizens and police department. I do know that one of their recommendations are to look at the mental health issues, the crisis in our entire state. And so I didn't know if there was any order that you will put these issues in, or field trips to look at those issues. But I do know that that task force will, make that recommendation to the legislature. So I'm just hoping we could, put that on the top of the list to look at. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other additional topics that we are wanting to add at this time? I'm not seeing any. So here's what we will do is we will make sure that an email goes out to you from Legislative Research, or kind of a last call for any other subjects that you would like to have considered. I will be working with the vice chair, and we're going to group those. And I think you've already kind of seen some patterns, because we're talking about the Juvenile Crisis Intervention Center, mental health with regard to sheriffs. And so we know that mental health is an issue. So we'll kind of group those together and figure out how best they could work together, and how many of these topics that we can work through. I don't think in the past that we've had more than 3 meetings. I think 3 meetings has been the most. Someone can correct me. I think when I first served on this committee 8 years ago, and we met for 2 days. I think since then we've pretty consistently met 3 days, and we have about every other year included some type of a tour. So obviously we have a couple of opportunities to schedule tours. So we will work to make sure that we figure out a schedule, get that request to our leadership, because they have to approve the number of days that we can meet. And then we will begin preliminary, just finding out from folks. Of course, we don't even know when our session's over. We don't even know when the session's over. So we're going to let the session end first. But then we will work toward what are times, and we'll ask you also, is it easier for your schedule to block off 2 or 3 days, or would you prefer to have 1 day 1 month, 1 day the next month, 1 day a third month, or something like that? And I know in the past it doesn't work universally for everyone. We will try to make it as accessible to everyone. And, one of the benefits I will tell you that we have gleaned from COVID is how well the WebEx does work for us. And so we certainly understand there are going to be times that we'll have committee members based on other family obligations, or maybe the birth of a child, that you might want to take that option. Not suggesting anything, but we did have someone that was expectant at any day as we went through the tour of the correctional facility. So that was very exciting for us. Yep. You walked it all out and you were ready to go. So are there any other issues? Yes.
Madam Chair, me.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I had to leave the building and couldn't join you in person,
Okay.
but Speaking of juvenile detention centers and still speaking of the Cedric Lofton case in Wichita, Cedric County, my understanding was that there was a little confusion in the juvenile detention center on whether or not they would have to turn over any visual or audio um, recordings at a certain time. Understanding like our for the police departments, they have body cams and they turn over that information. But understanding that there was an audio, but they didn't have any visual. And so just kind of curious of because the juvenile detention centers, their procedure like at a county jail or a prison or just police period, it was a little confusion over if their detention centers had the proper equipment and when they would turn that information over to lawyers or families. Can we look into that issue?
Definitely look into the, what is the practice?
Yes, thank
And
you.
what is the policy with regard to recording devices, be it video or audio, as well as what's the practice and policy for releasing what has been recorded. So I have that down also.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You read my mind. Thank you.
Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and being somewhat new to this committee. As I look at the issues that are brought forward, I would say there are definitely unique aspects to these in our context. However, there's certainly nothing unique about the issues of mental health and workforce development. So my question is, are there ever times when we have maybe some joint meetings or efforts around some of those issues that a lot of areas are struggling with and have more of a synergistic approach to those or not? Thank you, Madam Chair.
I appreciate that. During the interim, I am not familiar with different committees joining together, but I think that it would be possible to do something like that, particularly when we are, a subject such as mental health, where we know so many of the folk, we know the number one provider of mental health care in the state is our corrections system. So I think it's pretty common knowledge that the mental health issues didn't start after they were put in correction, but were there prior to. But I think that that is something that I could work with the mental health task force to see if there is going to be a time that they will be meeting. Can we come up with the subject matter where it would work for us to be meeting jointly? Some of it, quite frankly, will be room availability, but I don't see that as an obstacle. I see it as simply something that we will work through. But because mental health is something that really does seems to echo through completely, I don't know that the Sheriff's Association have necessarily been, are the sheriffs in Western Kansas having a lot of participation with our mental health task force that you know of, Representative Smith?
I don't know specifically with the mental health task force, but I know that there have been numerous Zoom meetings, et cetera, between the sheriffs. And specifically, I think importantly here, that the specific problems that we're running into. Of course, we all know that law enforcement is the first responder to a psychotic break in many cases. Many cases in rural areas, the resources that are available to sheriffs are very limited. And then you run into the problem of placement once an individual has been evaluated and indicated that they need placement. we're talking sometimes days, weeks, in fact, for placement. And these are the issues that the sheriffs are just fed up. They're not only is it liability for the sheriffs, but then the personnel and that the resource drain that it puts on sheriffs across Kansas, and especially in the rural areas, I think is the focus that they'll want to have.
I think it would perhaps be very helpful for the mental health task force to hear from that perspective of the sheriffs. I think we all can agree that someone that's having a mental health crisis, putting them in a jail cell is not treatment. It's confinement. And that's not moving them forward with the mental health issues that they're dealing with. So I see that that's obviously going to be something that will, I think mental health would be, I think we can just count mental health will be a day, at least, of discussion. So I'm going to let you guys, I'm not saying any more discussion items. I thank you for your participation today. Please watch for some emails coming from legislative research with regard to this, and she'll make it very clear. It's going to be the Joint Corrections and Juvenile Justice Survey, or, you know, she'll make it, and she is very good at just, you may not read it, but she's going to keep tracking you down. She'll get an answer from you one way or another. Okay. Thank you so much. And let's get some more great work done for Kansans today. Thank you.